Let me ask you something, real talk. Have you ever sat quietly in the evening, maybe sipping your tea or just watching the news, and suddenly wondered, why does it feel like my body is slowing down, even more than I expected? You're not alone. You see other men your age, some of them seem full of life, cracking jokes, walking upright, even still sharing a certain spark with their partners. And then there's the other side, the quiet frustration. Low energy. Flat mood. And let's be honest. Some struggles in the bedroom that nobody wants to talk about. Here's the thing. It's not always about getting old. Sometimes, it's about what you've been feeding your body, or not feeding it. Because what if I told you that something as simple as the kind of nuts you eat could make a huge difference? And I'm not being cheeky here, I'm talking about actual nuts. Walnuts, almonds, Brazil nuts. These aren't just snacks, they're nature's own little capsules of blood flow, testosterone, and vitality. Sound strange? Maybe. But listen closely. Scientific studies have shown that specific nuts, yes, the kind you buy at the store, can actually help support rock-hard erections, improve your heart health, boost your mood, and bring back that inner confidence you thought was fading for good. And here's the best part, this isn't about pills, gimmicks, or overpriced supplements. No blue pills. No awkward doctor visits. Just small changes that make a big impact, especially when you hit 60 and beyond. So stick with me, because in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 powerful nuts that older men should be eating right now if they want to stay firm, stay strong, and stay in the game. And yeah, I'll also warn you about one nut you're probably eating that's doing more harm than good. So before we dive in, I want you to do something simple. Drop a comment below saying I'm over 60 and still curious. Because you are. You care. You're not ready to give up, and you deserve to know the truth about what's possible for your body, at any age. And if this kind of honest, no fluff talk about aging, health, and real solutions is something you value, hit that subscribe button to join the ElderTalks Daily family. Because here, we don't whisper about aging. We speak the truth, and we age with purpose. Let me tell you a quick story. My uncle Gerald, he's 67 now, used to be the life of the room. Loud laugh, sharp dresser, the kind of man who carried himself with quiet strength. But a few years back, I noticed something had changed. He seemed tired all the time. Didn't crack as many jokes. Started turning down golf games and dinners with his wife. At first, we thought it was just age catching up. But then he told me something that stuck. He said, I feel like a light switch got flipped off, down there. He went to his doctor thinking maybe he needed medication. But you know what the doctor said? Gerald, before we talk pills, let's talk about food. Go get yourself a big bag of walnuts. And that was it. He started having a small handful every morning, 7, sometimes 8 pieces. Nothing fancy. Just raw walnuts with his breakfast. A month later, he looked different. He moved different. He told me, I don't know what's in those things, but something's working. And let's just say, my wife noticed too. So what makes walnuts so special? Here's the science in plain English. Walnuts are packed with something called L-arginine. It's an amino acid that helps your body make nitric oxide. And nitric oxide? That's the stuff that relaxes and widens your blood vessels. Think of it like oiling rusty pipes. The blood flows smoother, stronger, and faster. And when blood flows better, everything works better, especially in the bedroom. Now here's where most folks get it wrong. They think erectile dysfunction in older men is just about low testosterone. That's part of it, sure, but the main issue for most men after 60 is actually poor circulation. Your blood vessels aren't as flexible. Your heart has to work harder. And when there's not enough blood reaching where it needs to go, well, you already know the rest. That's why walnuts are a game changer. They target the root issue, circulation. Not just the symptoms. So here's a tip, skip the fancy energy bars. Forget the over-the-counter nonsense for a second. Just grab a small handful of walnuts every day, about 7 nuts, raw and unsalted. Make it part of your routine. With oatmeal, with yogurt, or even as a snack before bed. It's simple. It's natural. And for many men, it's surprisingly effective. But hang on. Better blood flow is just one part of the puzzle. What if you could naturally crank up your testosterone, with just 1 nut a day? Well, that's exactly what the next nut does. And it might just be the secret weapon your body's been quietly begging for. Now, let's talk about something a lot of men quietly struggle with, but few ever say out loud. You know that tired, sluggish feeling? Like you've got no drive, no fire, no get up and go. I'm not just talking about bedroom stuff, I mean energy, motivation, even mood. That low hum of, I just don't feel like myself anymore. Let me introduce you to Mr. Lewis. He's 71. We walk together sometimes at the park. Real kind man, always wore a baseball cap, always had a story. But for the longest time, he just looked drained. He'd show up, smile politely, but you could see it in his eyes. Something wasn't right. One day, he pulled me aside and said, "You ever feel like you're just running on empty? Even when you've done nothing all day?" I nodded. I knew that look. So I asked if he'd had his hormone levels checked lately. He chuckled and said, "Nah, I'm too old for all that." But then, just by chance, his grandson showed him an article about Brazil nuts and how they can naturally help men over 60 produce more testosterone. Mr. Lewis figured, why not? Cheaper than pills. So he started eating just 1 Brazil nut every morning. That's it. And about 3 weeks later, he came to our walk group looking lighter. Standing taller. He said, "I don't know what it is, but I feel sharper. Hungrier for life. Like the engine's warming up again." Now here's the magic behind it. Brazil nuts are loaded with selenium, a trace mineral your body desperately needs in small amounts. Selenium plays a key role in testosterone production, sperm health, immune function, and even mood regulation. And older men? We're usually running low on it, without ever knowing. Here's what most people mess up, they go grab some multivitamin or some fancy testosterone booster packed with all kinds of stuff, thinking more is better. But selenium is powerful, and too much can actually be harmful. It's like salt. You only need a little. Just 1 Brazil nut has more than your entire daily requirement. That's right, 1. Maybe 2 if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, but never more than that. Think about that, 1 nut a day. That's all it takes to start supporting your hormone health naturally. No side effects. No prescriptions. No gimmicks. So here's my suggestion, keep a small jar of Brazil nuts in the kitchen. Pop 1 in the morning before breakfast. Do it for a few weeks and pay attention, not just to how you feel physically, but how you carry yourself. Your mood, your energy, your spark. But listen, testosterone and blood flow are 2 big pieces of the puzzle. Still, for some men, everything's working, it's just that the desire isn't there anymore. That inner flame feels like it's flickering out. So what do you do when the engine's running, but you're not feeling the heat? That's where the next nut steps in. And believe it or not, it's also one of the tastiest little libido boosters nature ever made. You ever had that strange moment where everything should be working fine, you're healthy, your blood pressure's under control, maybe even your testosterone levels are decent, but deep down, the drive just isn't there? You're not broken. You're not lazy. It's something a lot of older men go through, and often, it creeps in so quietly you don't even notice it at first. You just start saying, maybe tomorrow, more often. You stop initiating. The interest fades, and you chalk it up to age. That's exactly what happened to Joe. He's 74, sharp as a tack. Retired professor. Always reading, always moving. But over lunch one afternoon, he looked at me and said, "You know, I think my body's fine, it's my mind that's not in the mood." He'd recently lost his appetite, not just for food, but for connection, for intimacy. So his wife, bless her heart, started packing him pistachios in his lunch bag. At first, it was just something to snack on. But a few weeks later, he joked, "I've been feeling springy." Pistachios are more than just tasty. They're packed with L-arginine, just like walnuts, but also loaded with plant sterols, healthy fats, and antioxidants that specifically help with blood vessel flexibility and cholesterol. What's that got to do with your libido? A lot, actually. Because when your blood is flowing freely, your heart is healthier, and your body's getting what it needs. Your desire naturally returns. But even beyond that, pistachios support dopamine production, the feel-good chemical that affects motivation, mood, and yes, even your sex drive. There's even a study from Turkey where men ate just a handful of pistachios every day for 3 weeks, and reported firmer erections, higher satisfaction, and improved desire. No pills. No therapy. Just pistachios. But here's where most folks get it wrong. They go for the salted kind. Or the ones roasted in oil. That defeats the purpose. You want them raw or dry roasted, nothing else added. The purer, the better. Start with a handful a day, maybe 30 grams, which is around 40 to 45 kernels. Toss them in your oatmeal. Snack on them mid-afternoon. Add them to a salad if you're feeling fancy. Over time, you might find that the desire you thought had vanished was really just buried under poor circulation, low dopamine, or hormonal imbalance. So we've got blood flow, testosterone, and libido working in your favor now. But what about your stress levels? Your mood? That tight feeling in your chest after a long day of worrying about the kids, the bills, your health? Because the next nut isn't just good for your body, it's a calming force for your mind. And for older men, that kind of balance is just as essential as physical strength. There's something most people overlook when it comes to intimacy and performance: stress. You can have good circulation. Your testosterone could be in a decent range. You might even feel that flicker of desire. But if your mind is weighed down, if you're anxious, overwhelmed, or just emotionally drained, your body shuts the door. And for a lot of men over 60, that's exactly what's happening. I think about Mr. Benson. Retired teacher. Quiet guy. Lived alone after his wife passed, and he told me once, "I've got the time, but I just don't have the peace of mind." He wasn't sleeping well. He'd wake up groggy, barely eat breakfast, and by afternoon, he'd crash on the couch, mentally exhausted but unable to relax. One day, his daughter gave him a small container of almonds and said, "Dad, just snack on these instead of those biscuits." He started doing it, nothing dramatic. A handful in the morning, sometimes another before bed. And within a few weeks, he was sleeping better, moving better, and more importantly, he felt better. He smiled more. Got back into gardening. Started talking about the lady from church choir again. Why? Because almonds are rich in vitamin E, magnesium, and most importantly, zinc. These nutrients help stabilize testosterone, but they also regulate your nervous system. That means better sleep, lower cortisol levels, more mental clarity, and fewer mood swings. See, cortisol, the stress hormone, fights against testosterone. So the more anxious you are, the lower your drive drops. It's a quiet war happening inside your body, and almonds help tip the balance back in your favor. But here's what most people miss: it's not just about the nutrients. It's about replacing bad habits with better ones. Instead of reaching for chips, cookies, or late-night snacks that spike your blood sugar and mess with your hormones, reach for almonds. Unsalted. Raw or lightly roasted. Just a handful, 15 to 20 almonds a day. You'll get steady energy, better mood control, and the kind of hormonal support your body can actually use. And there's something grounding about it too. When you sit with a bowl of almonds at the end of the day, you're doing more than just snacking. You're telling your body, I care about you. And that kind of care, it goes a long way in how you feel, physically, emotionally, intimately. Now, we've talked about blood flow, testosterone, libido, and stress management. But there's one more piece to the puzzle, one that's often overlooked, even though it could be the most important. Because before anything else works, your heart has to be strong. And this next nut is quietly protecting your most vital muscle every time you eat it. If there's one thing every man over 60 should be thinking about every single day, it's heart health. Because without a strong heart, everything else we've talked about, circulation, testosterone, energy, even intimacy, falls apart. Your heart is the engine. And when that engine starts to clog, slow down, or misfire, it shows up in ways you might not expect. Maybe you start waking up tired. Maybe you feel winded after a simple walk. Or maybe you just feel off. Like something's brewing under the surface. That's why I want to talk to you about macadamia nuts. Now I know, these aren't the first nuts you think of. They're rich. Buttery. Almost too good to be healthy, right? That's what I thought too. Until I read the research and saw what they were doing to men like my friend Paul. Paul is 69. Used to eat fast food 3 times a week. Said vegetables weren't for him. Then one day, he had a heart scare. Nothing serious, just a tightness in his chest that wouldn't go away. His doctor ran some tests and said, "You're on a dangerous path, my friend." No pills yet, but the warnings were there. Instead of going full-on strict with his diet, Paul made small swaps. He added macadamia nuts to his breakfast. A small handful every morning, plain, no salt, no flavoring. That's it. 3 months later, his cholesterol dropped. His inflammation markers improved. And he told me, "I don't know what's in those nuts, but I feel lighter. More alive." Here's the reason, macadamias are loaded with monounsaturated fats, the same kind of healthy fats found in olive oil and avocados. These fats lower bad cholesterol, LDL, and raise the good kind. They reduce inflammation, improve arterial flexibility, and protect the lining of your blood vessels. Which, in simple terms, means they keep your heart strong and your blood flowing. And again, blood flow is everything. Not just for your health, but for your performance, your confidence, and your quality of life. Most older men don't realize this, but erectile dysfunction is often an early warning sign of heart disease. So when something starts to go wrong in the bedroom, it might not be your age, it might be your heart whispering for help. Macadamia nuts aren't flashy. But they work quietly in the background, protecting the most important part of your body. So here's what I suggest, keep a small jar of them in your pantry. Eat 8 to 10 macadamia nuts a day. That's all you need. They're calorie dense, so don't overdo it. But trust me, your heart, and your performance, will thank you. Now, before you run off to the store and fill your basket with every nut I've mentioned, there's one more thing you need to know. Not every nut is your friend. In fact, there's one popular nut that many older men snack on daily, thinking it's healthy, but in reality, it could be silently sabotaging your progress. You might want to brace yourself for this one, because it's a bit of a curveball. You've probably been told your whole life that cashews are a healthy snack. And sure, they taste amazing. Creamy, rich, a little sweet. But if you're over 60 and serious about your health, especially when it comes to keeping your blood vessels clear and your energy high in that department, you may want to think twice. I know a guy, David, 66. Retired mechanic. Salt of the earth kind of man. He used to keep a can of roasted cashews by his recliner and munch on them while watching TV. Didn't seem like a big deal, right? But over time, he noticed something strange. His blood pressure started creeping up. He gained a bit of belly fat, even though his portions weren't huge. And worst of all, he said it felt like his fire went out. He described it as feeling foggy, unmotivated. He even joked, if my wife winked at me, I'd probably just offer her the remote. Turns out, cashews were playing a quiet game behind the scenes. They're high in omega-6 fatty acids, and when your omega-6 levels outweigh your omega-3s, it leads to inflammation. And inflammation is the enemy of circulation, hormone balance, and erectile health. Cashews are also often roasted in oils, loaded with sodium, and eaten by the handful. So even though they're marketed as healthy, they can actually clog you up, inflame your body, and make it harder for your heart and hormones to keep up. Now, I'm not saying cashews are evil. But they're not the friend you thought they were, especially when they're salted, flavored, or fried in processed oils. If you still enjoy them once in a while, fine. Just don't make them a daily habit. Stick with the nuts we've covered today: walnuts, Brazil nuts, pistachios, almonds, and macadamias. They're the real deal. Each one working a different angle of your health, but all leading to the same destination: more confidence, more vitality, more you. Now, we've gone through the science. We've covered the stories. But this isn't just about nuts, it's about reclaiming your strength. So before I let you go, there's something deeper I want to share with you, because this part, it's about how you feel inside. Not just as a man, but as a human being who still wants to live fully. I want you to pause for a second and really think about something. When was the last time you truly felt in control of your body? Not just surviving the day, not just going through the motions, but really feeling strong, alive, and confident in who you are. For a lot of men, somewhere between retirement, prescriptions, and the quiet weight of responsibility, something fades. Not overnight. Slowly. Subtly. One skipped workout turns into months of stiffness. One missed connection turns into awkward distance. And before you know it, you start believing the lie that this is just how life is after 60. But that's not the full story. Because here's the truth, my friend, your body is still capable. Your heart still beats with purpose. Your desires still matter. And that spark, it's not gone, it's just waiting for a little fuel. What you choose to eat, how you care for yourself, the decisions you make each day, these are not small things. They are the difference between slowly fading and gently rising again. Something as simple as a handful of almonds, a single Brazil nut, a few macadamias. These might seem like nothing. But they're signals to your body. They say, I haven't given up on you. They say, I still believe in what we can do together. So yeah, we're talking about nuts today. But what we're really talking about is hope. A quiet, steady kind of hope that grows in the background when you decide to stop settling and start living again. And now that you've got the information, the stories, the science, and the solutions, what will you do with it? Because these aren't just facts. They're a second chance. And all it takes is one simple step. And now that we've walked this path together, let me gently remind you of what we've uncovered, so you don't forget just how much power you still hold. Let's take a moment to bring it all together. We started with a question: why do some men over 60 still carry that fire, that spark, and others just don't? And the answer wasn't magic. It wasn't medication. It was understanding. It was knowing what your body actually needs, at this stage of life, to not just function, but thrive. So here's what we've covered. We began with walnuts, the blood flow booster. Helping your vessels open up, letting life move through you again the way it should. Then we explored Brazil nuts, tiny but powerful testosterone igniters. Helping your hormones find their balance again, naturally, gently, just as nature intended. From there, it was pistachios, bringing back that inner flame. The kind of desire that doesn't just wake up your body, but your confidence, your playfulness, your sense of connection. Then came the almonds, quiet heroes for your mood and your nerves. Because you can't light a fire on a bed of stress, and these little guys help calm the storm. And finally, macadamia nuts, protecting your heart, so everything else can follow. Each one, different. Each one, simple. But together, they form a quiet revolution in your body. They give you back what time tries to steal. And along the way, we uncovered a warning too: cashews. Deceiving in their taste, but loaded with inflammatory omega-6s and hidden risks. So now, you know better. But let's be real, it's not just about the food, is it? It's about ownership. It's about saying, I may be 60, 70, even 80, but I still get to choose how I show up in this world. That choice. It starts today. Not with a complete overhaul. Not with some extreme plan. But with a small moment of courage, reaching for the foods that love you back. Making space for pleasure. For strength. For vitality that doesn't apologize for your age. Because age is not your enemy. Neglect is. And now that you've seen what's possible, now that you know which tools are in your hands, it's time to use them. So do something today. Check your pantry. Add one of these powerhouse nuts to your day. Pay attention to how you feel, not just physically, but emotionally. And give yourself permission to feel good again. You've earned it. And you're not alone on this path. Stick around, because we're not done yet. Let's close this out together, with one final push, one call to action, and one small question that just might change how you see your own story moving forward. So, here's what I want you to remember. To recap, the 5 powerful nuts we talked about today: walnuts for smoother blood flow. Brazil nuts to naturally support testosterone. Pistachios to reignite that flame and bring intimacy back into focus. Almonds to quiet the stress, calm the mind, and restore balance. And macadamias to protect the heart, because without a healthy heart, nothing else works. We also uncovered the hidden risk in cashews, that popular nut that might seem harmless but, eaten too often, can quietly raise inflammation and throw off everything you're trying to fix. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these are you adding to your routine? Have you tried any of them already? Or maybe you've got a tip of your own, something that's helped you feel more alive, more like yourself. Drop it in the comments below. You never know, your story might be the exact thing another man needed to hear today. And if this video helped you, even just a little, hit that like button. It tells YouTube, hey, this matters. And it helps more people, more men like you, find this kind of honest, real talk in a world full of quick fixes and empty promises. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Join us here on ElderTalks Daily, where we speak plainly, care deeply, and believe that growing older doesn't mean growing less. We talk health. We talk habits. We talk about the stuff nobody else dares to mention, but you know you need to hear. Because this chapter of your life, it's not about fading away. It's about rewriting what aging looks like, with strength, with clarity, and with dignity. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Stay strong. Stay curious. And I'll see you in the next video, where we'll keep uncovering the truth, one conversation at a time.